You think this one's gonna be a hit?
I don't know. If I get canceled, it was nice knowing you. Honestly, I have no idea how people are going to react to this one.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those ones. It is one of those ones. I think everybody is in fear of talking about this one, especially being in California. But we'll hope for the best.
Everyone knows it, but no one wants to talk about it.
Yeah. Welcome back, everyone, to the XPerience podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. 150 giveaway. It's almost there.
Yes.
We're almost there. That swell merch is about to be given out soon. We also have a giveaway at 200 for XPerience podcast merch, and as well as a big bundle giveaway at 250. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do that. Have the opportunity to enter our amazing raffle to go out and do giveaways. Why? Because we just want to bless people. We want to give away free stuff. That's what we do here. So make sure you go ahead and do it. It's not going to hurt you to subscribe.
Yes, guys.
And then more importantly, hit the notification bell so you get the latest content. We're constantly releasing stuff. We do episodes once a week, unless there's vacations or anything like that. But keep that in mind as we continue to go forward to this. We are back in the war room.
Yes, we are.
We are back in the war room. If you haven't checked out last week's episode on the economy, if you're passionate about the economy, if you feel like, where's my money going? Or I want to understand a little bit about what's happening in the politics of economy and how that affects us as a church, make sure that you check out that episode. It was an amazing episode with Daryl and our friend. He has his own YouTube channel, Respawn. Make sure you go ahead and check that out. But there's only two of us today.
Yes, it is.
Because it's a difficult one.
It is. This is a very difficult one. I was actually apprehensive about coming on to this one.
Why would you say that?
Well, it's a very touchy and sensitive subject. We know it's there. It's kind of like the analogy, it came to a point, let's address the elephant in the room, especially for us. You know, everybody here in the United States, we all have a stake in it, but I think California in particular and Texas have a real, a real stake in this. Yeah.
So today what we're going to talk about, and obviously this was the one that I would say I was not looking forward to the most, but we're not going to be the type of people that's going to avoid the conversation in this. Today we're going to talk about what we believe right now is the number 2 key issue based off of the polls that are out there. We are in the war room. We're talking about politics and the church. And so everything that we talk about here is we're going to talk about what's happening out in politics and does this matter to the church or not? And what does this mean and where should we stand in regards to these issues, in regards to our faith, rather than if we lean left or right? And so the one we've been dreading to talk about here is the southern border.
Yeah. Yep, we said it, southern border.
We said it, southern border. So the reason why we word it that way is because the southern border has many layers to it.
It does.
We've had the conversation about this offline about the southern border. And the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to the southern border is immediately immigration.
Right.
Immigration has always been a big subject. I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit on what are your thoughts right now as far as the immigration status, or what are your thoughts about the fact that the concern is more revolved around immigration more than anything? What are your thoughts on that?
Man, where do I start with this? I think this is something not new to us, for us in North America, but I think in the past 5 years it has escalated into something that is just really, hitting home for all of us. And to start with the immigration thing, right? We have immigrants come in by the thousands weekly now. Is what the reporter. You could correct me on that. And
that's correct.
And let me make it clear. Let's make it clear. We have no problem with immigration. I have no problem with immigration. I get it. People want to come here, land of opportunity, a better life, especially coming from Mexico, where there's a lot of corruption down there.
Yeah.
And I get it. And I'm a third generation here.
You know what's really funny that
Yeah.
you mentioned that? Even though that there are a lot of Mexicans that are coming into the United States, they're still in a way connected to what is happening, or still always keeping tabs on what's happening politically in their old country.
Right.
Which is very, very interesting. It's like, even though they're here and they feel like it's home here now, it's not like they just completely cut the ties and forgot about their nation.
Right.
I find it very interesting where I go around and they're having conversations about the new leaders and so on and so forth, and what's going on politically in the same way that we're having conversations. So I just want to add that nugget in there.
No. Yeah. No, it is interesting. And like my great grandparents were immigrants. So I think most Americans now have probably grandparents or great grandparents are immigrants now, especially, with we're a multi-ethnic country, more than ever now. But aside from that, yes, it is a real issue because we have immigrants come in who are getting all these governmental benefits, and there's nothing wrong with that. But me, as someone who's born in North America, I don't get the benefits they're getting. And we'll elaborate on that, but that's just what I'm going to say for now.
Perfect. And so for our audience, the reason why we titled this Southern Border is because there's layers to it. Immigration is probably the most talked about because if you ever look out on the polls, it is labeled as immigration. However, I think media makes a mistake of categorizing it as it's such as that, because there's layers to the issues that are going on with the southern border. And it really started particularly right after COVID had ended, where now we have this floodgate that is happening when it comes to the southern border. So we're going to talk about immigration, but I believe there's actually 3 layers to this.
Okay.
One is immigration. Next one is trafficking of humans, more specifically children.
Right.
And then also drug trafficking as well.
Yep.
Because we have something going on at the southern border where now all of this is kind of combobulating into one big mess to now where it's having an impact on America and including Americans. And so we want to be able to break this down a little bit. But first, let's talk about the immigration issue. So right here, I got my stats here. An estimated population of unauthorized immigrants in the U.S. stands at around 11 million people. Although the number has stabilized, the United States has seen a spike in migrant encounters in the last few years, with over 2 million cases registered by the U.S. Border Patrol in 2023, a slight decrease from the previous year, which was over 2.2 million cases registered. In 2020, it was about 400,000. In 2021, it spiked up to 1.6 million.
Wow.
So we have this huge increase, and people could say COVID and this and that. The numbers were fairly similar in 2019 in comparison to 2020. So I don't think COVID really stopped anything. It kept it very status. And so we have an immigration issue overall. We have people that are coming over illegally for many different reasons. I think there are some people that are really trying to seek opportunities. I think people are really trying to start a new life, but don't want to wait through the process. So they go out, they get a little jumpy, and they want to go over. But we can't really say that if there's no way of really keeping track of anything.
Exactly.
And I think that's one of the main issues that we're dealing with right now. I think people can argue that maybe the legal process takes too long. That's fair play. We can have a conversation on what that looks like. But there's also other processes in regards to that. So knowing the stats and seeing all of that, and obviously seeing the cases that is happening in Springfield, Ohio, and Aurora, Colorado, where these communities are being literally taken over in a way. I wouldn't say taken over completely like, there's no, it's not that. It's just that when you have a small community and you literally increase that community by 33%, the opportunities are going to be very slim. They're going to be very limited.
Right.
And so it creates this whole bundle of like, what exactly do we do in the process of while trying to take care of these people? But at the same time, it almost seems like, okay, then what do we do about the American citizens that have been living there for generations on?
Right.
What are your thoughts in regards to the stats that I talked about, and then as far as the situations that are currently happening in America?
Yeah, so I'll start with the situation, right? A lot of people are coming in, and the thing is, there is no from what it seems like, there is no structural due process of people coming in. Biden says, like, we're going to let the immigrants in. And I'm like, and it was just kind of no regulation, no due process. And the problem with that is when you just start letting anybody in, right?
Yeah.
Not all those people are going to have the best intentions. Not all those people are going to want to start new lives. Some people are running away from their problems over in their country because they could be in trouble with the law. And so they're coming here trying to take advantage of the system, trying to, keep leading that life of corruption, whatever it may be. I'm not saying it's all like that for all immigrants, but we're seeing that. And we're seeing an increase in crime and in certain communities. And again, like, I'm not going to point out any demographic or ethnic group, but I know one of them that's been mentioned a few times is like Venezuelans.
Yeah.
And again, I got nothing against Venezuelans, but we're seeing that. And the stats are, it's been a higher increase with immigration, and where what we're seeing is people are being dumped off in these communities by truckloads, and they're just like, wait a minute, our community can't support that capacity just like that.
Yeah, and then the program that's what is happening right now is that there's been an increase in people applying for a TPS status, which is temporary protection status.
Right.
I got to read a little bit on this if you guys didn't know about this, because the stats show that illegal immigration is not really that high, but people are also taking the opportunity to use temporary protection status in order to go ahead signing a waiver, so on and so forth, and they're able to do that. So the reason why people would do this is ongoing armed conflict. We see this happen a lot, especially with Ukrainians. They usually take advantage of this program to come to America. Environmental disasters such as earthquake or hurricane or epidemic, other extraordinary temporary conditions. And during this designated period, individuals who are TPS beneficiaries and who are found preliminary eligible for TPS upon initial review in their cases are not removable from the United States, can attain an employment authorization document, and may be granted travel authorization.
Wow.
And so, however, TPS does not prevent you from applying for non-immigrant status, filing for adjustment of status based on an immigrant petition, applying for any other immigration benefit and protection for which you may be eligible. And for many of you guys that can't find this, you could go ahead and find this on a U.S. border website. I found all this information here. So if you're wondering exactly where can I find this information, Customs and Border Protections, you can go ahead and find all this information. So it leads to an interesting thing, and we'll talk about the other two, but let's really have a discussion on the feeling process of this. So in your shoes, you're an average American citizen who's going out working daily, and you see what's happening, and you see what is being given, and you see the benefits that people that are coming over, like right away immediately, but at any point, does it give a feeling of like, I see all this happening for a community of people that have been living here for a short period of time. When do I get mine?
Yeah.
Does it ever bring up that feeling? Or
it brings it up. It brings it up, and it hurts. It really genuinely hurts as an American citizen. I've always been a law-abiding citizen, never been convicted of any crime, never been arrested, always pay my taxes, never try to avoid taxes, tax defraud, always been a hardworking American. And I do need governmental help, and I'm going to be transparent. Like, me as a single man making $17 an hour at my job, which is not a lot here, especially California with inflation, the cost of living. They said I'm only applicable for $23 a month because I make too much. And when I hear these,
so you make minimum wage.
I make minimum wage,
and they say you make too much.
I make too much, and I only qualify for $23 in food stamps. Let me correct myself. I think I said hours, but $23 in food stamps a month. That's what I qualify for.
That's crazy.
And that to add insult on top of injury. So they're saying I make too much, so I can't even break $100 for myself. I can stretch $100, but groceries are more expensive. We talked about the economy podcast. Yeah. Groceries are more expensive. So not only I can barely get money for food, but people who are coming over illegally, I am my taxes being subsidized to helping them getting, and many other Americans are subsidizing their taxes getting subsidized to them getting all these governmental programs that are hundreds and thousands of dollars in benefits.
Exactly.
And that really hurts the American, and it brings the morale, us as America. It really brings the morale. That's why people are apprehensive about, Democratic Party or Republican Party, because Americans is like, wait a minute, hold on. We're Americans, and we don't even get these kind of benefits.
Yeah. And let me break this down, because obviously we're saying this, but I want to be able to reiterate what he's saying, because everything he's saying as far as programs to help out non-citizens is true, more particular in California. So California, public benefits to all non-citizens regardless of status. There's in-state tuition and financial aid under California Assembly Bill 540. There is Medi-Cal, obviously. There are other health programs, food and nutrition assistance under WIC. All public benefits for qualified immigrants include supplemental security income, supplemental nutrition assistance program known as SNAP or CalFresh in California, temporary assistance for needy families or California work opportunities and responsibility for kids called CalWorks in California, and then also at the same time Social Security. Yep. So you have all the, and this is non-qualified. You have cash assistance for program for immigrants. You have food assistance program as well. So you have all these programs that are already established for non-citizens. And then the question always becomes, what exactly are we doing for the American people?
Right.
And this is a very interesting topic. I want to let you guys know right away, I'm a youth pastor. I'm heavily invested more in the Spanish community. And so the reason why I get shaken up a little bit talking about this is because with the understanding that we may have people that come from a background where they came to this country. And it's a very passionate subject for a lot of people that I know, more in particular, my wife when she was younger. 2016 was a very interesting year for me because, to be quite honest with you, if I did not vote for Hillary, I didn't know if I was going to be in a relationship with my wife anymore. To be quite honest with you, because of obviously the things that Trump would say.
Yeah.
And obviously Trump ended up winning, and it felt like the sky was going to fall down because nobody knew what was going to happen with the program. So my wife came in legally here, but benefited off the DACA program long term until, we obviously got married, and now she's good to go. But thinking about, there are a lot of great benefits for people that can go out there, and we should be able to create those programs in order to do so. But then at what point do we reach that point? And one of the things that I don't believe people spent time talking about is having the ability to be able to have honest conversation. Right. Like, for example, you shared to me that this is how I feel about it as an American citizen. I don't know if that's happening a lot. And I don't know if it's language barrier, or two, I think we're kind of so stuck in our bubble that we don't want to hear out the other side. Right. But the most interesting conversation that I ever heard between an immigrant and an American citizen was actually my grandpa and my wife. Wow. So in 2016, I was living with my grandpa. Right. 2016 till about 2018. In 2017, after the election had happened, my grandpa began to have conversations with me about everything that was going on because of politics. And one thing he asked me is like, hey, man, do you plan on getting married right away or anything like that? I'm like, no, why would I want to do that? I haven't got my life figured out. I'm going to propose to her, but I'm not going to go out and jump and get married right now. I need to figure out my life. He's like, that's good because a personal friend of mine, his son, and I knew him too as well. He's like, his girlfriend, the same thing. She benefits out the DACA status, and it's almost like he wants to get married right away. And I'm like, well, what's your problem with it? He's like, I don't know. Like he said, I just don't feel like you should just go out and rush and do something crazy because of what people say. And, if it happens, it happens. I'm like, how can you say that? Yeah. And a couple weeks later, my wife comes by and my grandpa's there, and my grandpa's like, I need to talk to you. I'm like, no, don't do it. I like this girl. She's going to break up with me if you have this conversation with her. I knew exactly what he was trying to do.
I'm going to run away with her.
I'm going to run away. I'm going to leave this house now. And it was quite interesting. He's just like, I just want to hear you out. Why exactly is the DACA program good? And why should we continue to allow people to come over across the border legally or illegally or stay past their dues. I just want to hear you out. My wife began to break down of like what the country did for her and her family and so on and so forth, and began to really express her side of the story. But it didn't stop there. Then my grandpa was like, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but I want you to hear my side now. I think a lot of the times the American citizen don't spend a lot of time expressing their side of the story. He's like, even though I am a white Caucasian male, I didn't grow up with everything. I had to work hard for everything that I got.
Right.
And one thing that frustrated me the most is seeing people who are not qualified, who essentially got a handout, who essentially didn't work their way all the way to the top, and see them get all these rewards. And I'm out here busting my butt, trying to make ends meet and trying to get that promotion. And people are taking advantage of those opportunities because of their status rather than how hard they worked. Right. And I'm an American working citizen, and I had to get everything that I had.
Yeah.
And so I think in the same way the sympathy has been expressed on one side when it comes to immigrants that are coming here just trying to have an opportunity, I don't know if a lot of the sympathy for the American citizen, for the good American citizen, for the law-abiding American citizen, the one that pays their taxes, it's not out there shared enough. And I felt like I needed to share that story because it was literally the first time that I saw two people from different backgrounds and different stories really share how they felt about the situation. Then the next question is, what is the resolution? Because here the fact of the matter is that whenever you bring in people from another country, people live different lives. It's a different lifestyle.
Different perspectives.
Different perspectives. My favorite story that my wife ever told me is that when her aunt came over from Mexico and he goes to the grocery store to get a bottle of Coke, begins to drink it right away, and it takes to the cash register to try to pay for it. It's like you can't do that in America. Until you pay for it, you can't do that. Why? Because in Mexico they did the same thing. And so in the same way that little story, there are culture differences that happen in every nation. And so when you bring in people to the nation, we want to be able to get them accustomed to the understanding of the laws and what everything means, instead of hearing all these stories that happen out in the news. You know, they're eating the dogs, you know, and all that stuff. Obviously, we don't really care about that, but there's a talk to it. It's like there's these culture differences, and until we get people accustomed to that,
and I think the reason why Americans are not heard is because I could speak for myself. I think, I was afraid to express this with certain people because if a white man were to express this, right? A white man would be called a racist. Oh, you're a racist. Now, me being black, they may not call me a racist, but they might call me a bigot. And it's just like, is this whole border issue, the immigration issue, it has, I think for most Americans, it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with us being bigots. It's just about, what about us?
Yeah.
What about us who have who believe in the values of this country and who've always stand with the country and may not agree with everything, but like, hey, we're Americans and we work hard. We believe in hard work. We believe in diligence and integrity, but we need help right now in this economy. And then you're letting these people in. I don't mean it like that, but you're letting immigration in. Right, these immigrants in, and then like they get all these governmental programs. Again, I have nothing against them getting governmental programs, but it's like, I think about it. I was just thinking about this last night, and I was like thinking, like, any other country, if I were to go to any other country and get these kind of benefits, it would not happen. It wouldn't just right off the top,
off the rip. No.
Right off the rip, I would not get any of these kind of benefits. Because there are countries that offer benefits as well, but this wouldn't happen to me in any other country. Can you think of a country or a nation that would give these kind of benefits off the rip? No. And it's not to say like I'm entitled to those benefits, but it's just all about, where is our politicians putting priorities at with citizens and immigration.
And another thing too, outside of the understanding of like, where are we putting the American citizen first, comes safety as well.
Right.
And so the Border Patrol has recorded 43,674 arrests of illegal aliens with criminal backgrounds, a 99% increase from 2017 to 2020 combined. We also have now more than 617,000 criminal illegal aliens in a non-detained docket who have been released into our communities and await for the outcome of their cases, up from 407,983 in January of 2023. So the immigration deal is more of this. We're bringing in these people. What about the American citizen? And then on top of that, what do we know about the people that are coming through? And if we have illegal immigration, how do we know that the people that are coming through are going to be
an asset to
the country? Those are the biggest questions that we have about immigration. And that's why it's important to have a good, solid policy when it comes to migrating into the United States.
Right.
My resolution would be quite simple. It would be very hard, and I don't know how it would be obtainable. But I live on the side where, yes, I am married to a Mexican. You know, I think that's reality. I have family that I love, that I cherish, you know, that came to this country, and they're great and they're outstanding people. So what can we do for those outstanding people that have been living here for a long time? What can we do to make sure that we escalate their processes? Because they did the two things that I think we ask any American citizen to do, which is follow the law and pay your taxes. Pay your taxes. As a matter of fact, I'm more passionate about just pay your taxes, dude. I'm more passionate about that than the law thing. I'm like, just pay your taxes. Why? Because the government, that's the government funded stuff. That's the money that we're paying to go ahead and help you out. So pay your taxes too, you know? So if you can follow those two things and say you've been living here for over 10 years, and usually the process is 10 years, let's figure out a way to get you the citizenship.
Exactly.
That would be a very hard thing to do. Why? Because we can't track anything, and I think that's another thing too. Can we trust that?
Exactly.
Can an immigrant go ahead and trust that and say, "Oh yeah, go ahead, let's do this. We passed this policy for you to do that." There has to be that trust as well, and there needs to be that trust built for the parties to be able to say, "Hey, you've been outstanding here. We've taken care of you. Let's go ahead and let's bring you in."
Exactly.
And so we're going to leave it at that. I think that would be my resolution. And obviously, if you fail to do one of the two, I don't know if we can say you're an asset completely. You know, I don't know if we can say that this person, they failed to pay their taxes, they're committing crimes, that wouldn't benefit the country at all. It would cause harm to communities, and that's what we see happening right now in places where hotels are being taken over in random parts of the nation. When we're seeing crimes happen, and obviously all these stories about these young people that were killed by illegal immigrant gang members. We don't want to hear those stories. We don't want to talk about those stories. And so I think it is important to have good policy in place where people have the opportunity to go out and seek the American dream, while at the same time protecting the American dream at the same time for those that grew up in the nation. You know, it always starts with the American people first, and then we work our way around. But we don't want to be the place where we're so caught up and so bounded, like that we don't allow opportunity for others. So we're just going to leave it at that in regards to that conversation. But we said before, there are multiple layers to this. The immigration thing is actually not the top thing for me. I'm going to go in order. The next thing that we're going to talk about is that people tend to forget that things happen at the border.
Yeah, a lot. And right now, I think human trafficking, more specifically child sex trafficking, has been illuminated now more than ever. Yes, yep.
And so I think of it right away, Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
Sound of Freedom is the one that highlighted this the most. And now people are really, really diving into this. As far as for you, child trafficking, what are your thoughts in regards to that?
Oh, it is something very serious, and the rabbit hole goes deep, very deep. I mean, like, we don't know the full story. We don't. Let's let things play out. But they're saying P. Diddy's connected to this in some kind of way. We don't know the full stories. Allegations are coming out. Yep, no Diddy. So, but it goes deep down the rabbit hole between politicians, celebrities, whatever you could think of. Like, it goes deep, and it's different criminal organizations, syndicates that are established, moving humans around. And and this is where we as Christians in the body of Christ have to stay in prayer with this, because this is something more than just like, oh, we need more police, we need more crimes being busted with this stuff. This is a spiritual thing, a spiritual war, and there are principalities in high places that we have to stay prayed up and girded up with this. But to get back to, yes, it's very bad, and it's sickening to hear the things and the people who were the young children who were pulled out of sex trafficking, to hear their testimonies of what they've been through, what they witnessed, what they had to be subjected to. And it really breaks my heart that, man, there are people who are doing these things to children, and it's just, it's wrong. Doesn't matter the age, but it's really sad.
Yeah, let me just share you guys a little bit. So back in 2019, there were 11,500 cases of human trafficking in the U.S., with 8,248 of them involving sex trafficking. Every 2 minutes, a child is sold into trafficking. 4.8 million people are victims of sex trafficking today. 300,000 American children are victims of commercial sexual exploitation each year. This comes back down to the biblical concept. This is where we're going to really tie this back. One thing that is always mentioned throughout the Bible is that there are protection of two particular specific individuals, and that are our women and our children. Mm-hmm. And right now, there is a big attack from the enemy right now that is happening specifically over our women and over our children.
Right.
Why? Because they are the ones that need the most protection.
Yes.
And so when you have this happening right now in society, and I'm happy Sound of Freedom came out, because I think it opened up multiple eyes when it comes to this specific issue. This would have just been laid under the rug, and then we wouldn't have all these nonprofits begin to exploit and bring up all these statistics and so on and so forth. And so this goes deeper than that. And a lot of the arguments that people try to make in regards to this is the fact that, well, are the immigrants doing it? Mm-hmm. Well, according to the stats, it's more of U.S. citizens that are creating these crimes in comparison to immigrants. I believe it's like 85-15 or 87-13.
Right.
But that's not the point. It's happening. Mm-hmm. I don't care who did it.
It's happening.
It's happening. Why? Because there's something happening there at the border that's allowing people to have the confidence
to do this. Right.
If it's going up, there's a problem there. That means the people that are bad are making the choice that this is my time, this is my opportune moment. The enemy will not attack unless he feels like he has a window. No. The enemy will always just lay down, crawl up in a ball until he figures out the right moment, the right time to be able to attack. That's biblical. That's what the serpent did.
Yeah.
That's what the devil did try to do to Jesus. Like, this is going to be his weakest moment, and this is when I'm going to attack him.
Exactly.
And so when you have a border that is weak, that is when the influx of crime at the border is going to happen.
Increase,
and more particular when it comes to the trafficking of human beings.
Right.
It's a very methodical and cynical plan. Mm-hmm. But in the end of the day, we cannot treat it as, oh, let's just brush this under the rug because we're more worried about what is being said over the TV. No, it's a real issue.
It is. It is a real issue. And I 100% agree. Like, despite the immigration and the governmental programs and benefits, again, that's an issue of its own. But if there's any issue, if someone were to ask me, what issue would you want to solve first? The human trafficking. Let's solve that right now. Like, I will be fine. If I'm pulling in whatever amount of dollars and I'm getting through, God will make a way. But when it comes to something with regards of humans and humanity and morality, then let's figure out this human trafficking issue. And it's sad, man, just the increase of it, because you're absolutely right. Like, the numbers are increasing. That means they have confidence, and there's a lack of, at our border, there's a lack of structure and maybe even integrity. I don't know. I'm not there at the border. I don't get to see
authority.
Authority, a lack of authority. Yes, that's the perfect word. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Hey, there's a firework outside. That thing just popped like crazy.
It did. I wonder if you guys heard it, but yeah, we heard that.
It's not even July. I'm like, dude, they just saved them.
I know, right?
Yeah. So really diving into this, the issue right now, and that's the reason why we titled this Southern Border. It's not because it's about a specific concept of what's happening at the border. It's about everything in totality.
Right.
And I think we as an audience should acknowledge that, which is why we're talking about this, as I reiterate that. The last and final thing that I want to talk about, which is the most passionate subject of mine, and that is the drug trafficking. More in particular, the number one drug out there that's being talked about, which is fentanyl, especially in the state of California. For you personally, when it comes to the fentanyl epidemic, so let me read you some stats first, but the U.S. Customs Border and Protection seized 2,440 pounds of fentanyl smuggled into the U.S. in 2019 and 4,556 pounds in 2020. Since 2021, there's an average of more than 17,000 pounds per year, with 2023 hitting the high of about 27,000, and 2023 has decreased to about 19,000. So it significantly increased from 4,000 all the way up to an average of 17,000 pounds, meaning there's a structure issue that is happening where, as we talked about, is same with human trafficking, where the bad people who are involved in these heinous crimes have the confidence to be able to go out and smuggle in this drug. And then more importantly, now we're beginning to see people pass away because of bad fentanyl. What are your thoughts right now in regards to the drug epidemic that we're dealing with as a nation?
Yeah, bad too. But yeah, no, the fentanyl epidemic, it's sad to see what is happening to here in California. And there was another state too. I can't remember what it was that was really having a real bad fentanyl epidemic, but it's a lot of metropolitan cities are having this issue with drugs, human trafficking. It's always going to be metropolitan.
Yeah.
But if you look at, we talked about it before, but if you look at San Francisco, right?
Oh man.
We're in California, we're in Sacramento. Sacramento, thank God it's not that like San Francisco, where it is right now. We have our issues in Sacramento, but if you look at San Francisco,
well, you look at these big cities, San Francisco, LA,
right?
Those kind of places,
New York, right? And you see, but San Francisco in particular, where the whole just morale just went down, just the whole, just the beauty of the city has really almost completely been obliterated. And it's a lot of issues to that. Corruption, political corruption. It's a city that San Francisco, unfortunately, is a city that celebrates sin.
Yeah.
But also the drug epidemic, where it's like you drive by San Francisco and you see streets of homeless people strung out on fentanyl, whatever other drugs they may be taking. And it really is heartbreaking that the city came to this point where like, it's like almost like a different planet in a way. It's almost like a third world country. And it's only going to get worse if actions not taken place on securing the border and having, I don't know. And the thing is, Pastor, I don't know what is the exact answer to it. We know what the solution needs to be, but I don't know the exact answer. We know we need more ATFs and more DEAs and more federal law enforcement to secure this, and maybe even special agents to go in there. But it's sad because San Francisco, I was there 10 years ago, and it was like, it's not what it is now. My brother went down there last year. My brother went down there to do a job, and he drove through it, and he said, bro, the smell is putrid.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely putrid of the city. The smell hits you like a ton of bricks. And he says, saw nothing but people on the street strung out drugs, and even saw, I think he said he saw the crime went down, break-ins. And if you guys don't know this, a lot of major businesses closed down in San Francisco because of all the theft. Yeah.
So what was it? In-N-Out, the only In-N-Out in the Bay Area moved out. Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any Chick-fil-A's.
Yeah. Old Navy, the clothing company, started in San Francisco, and I believe their flagship store was in Market Street. I think it was somewhere in Market Street. Their flagship store was Market Street. Their store was established there for over 100 years or something like that.
They've been around for a while.
They've been around for a long time, older than you and I. Their flagship store was established in San Francisco, and they had to close down because of all the theft.
Yeah. No, it gets crazy. It gets to the point. So I think sometimes the policy part of it is, one, trying to prevent it from happening.
Right.
And it's a matter of where does the root cause start from here? And based off of the stats here, we know it starts by getting it access from other places outside of the United States. It's very hard to try to go ahead and start a drug cartel in the United States. It's a very hard thing. I mean, I've seen that happen before. People were like, I've had, it's funny, like when I was in high school, there was a house like 3 blocks down from me that was there for a while, but it got busted.
Yeah.
Like the moment people find out, but if you don't, other countries who don't necessarily have the justice system or the government in place to be able to start all this, or places that are just corrupt, that's where the access is coming from.
Right.
And obviously they have to get it through somewhere. And that is where it's happening right then and there, where all this is being transferred from multiple different nations, and now it's getting across to us, and it's being snuck in, and it's not being accounted for. And so just really going off of this, and and a lot of the times when it comes to politics, it's this. You make decisions based off of your own personal desires.
Right.
Hence why we see what's happening right now with the voting and the polls and everything. Why? Because everybody has reasons why they vote for a certain person.
Right.
The reasons why they stand for this certain issue. I say this is number one in my life. And I'm not going to admit that it's not personal. It's very much personal for me. When you lose somebody in your family because of bad fentanyl, it makes it very personal for me.
Exactly.
And obviously, this wasn't like out of nowhere or anything like that. We obviously know the issue. I see it right here in front of me. The stats are out there. Everybody talks about it. But now we're getting to a place where we're just going to let it go and let it leave. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I don't want this to happen to anybody else in the same way that it happened to me. I lost my brother, my best friend, because of this stuff. And so why should I settle down for that? And now it's going to be a big issue for me. Why? Because it has become personal. Exactly. And I don't want that to happen to anybody else. And so it has become my number one in this category outside of the other 3, even though it may not seem as such a big topic. It's personal for me. That's just the reality of the situation. So now just kind of summarizing this all up, it starts with stopping the root, which is what? The border.
Right.
Then we don't have to invest so much into making sure that we get our DAs in place, then making sure that we have to focus on so much of stopping it happening in the country. Let's stop it from coming into the country.
Have them. And the problem is that in America, we tend to put a lot of Band-Aids over issues and not actually go to the root cause. Like, let's find the cancer. Like, let's infiltrate what is actually hurting our nation. Yeah. We do these new policies. Let's put a Band-Aid over it. Like the whole, San Francisco was giving out drugs so people wouldn't go buy drugs. It's like, that is not fixing anything.
No.
It's, in fact, in a way, you're kind of like encouraging them to keep doing drugs. Don't get help, don't get better, but don't buy drugs illegally. We'll give it to you. Yeah. We'll come to you and we'll give you a smaller dose so you don't die or you don't get withdrawals, whatever it may be. And I'm like, that is just putting a Band-Aid over an issue.
Exactly. Let's just really tie this in, because I think those are the 3 layers when it comes to the southern border and its issues. That I think we could break that down all day. But how is this biblical? Why is this issue important, and how does it involve our faith? How does our faith really justify why is it that we're so passionate about this? What do you think?
Oh, man, biblical. As I said earlier, there's principalities in high places, but the thing is, is unfortunate all this is happening with our borders in North America. I do believe this is, in a way, God's judgment over America. And the reason why I say that, I think is because when our nation, our president, right, starts celebrating pro-choice, starts celebrating sin of sex transition.
You're going to have a lot of people that hate you in the moment you say that.
Oh yeah. And sorry, but we're Christians and we gotta live by the word and we gotta be obedient to what God says. What sin is sin and what's evil is evil.
Yeah.
But when you have a nation that starts celebrating the sin and encouraging sin, right? With now they're saying, oh, pedophilia, that's just like, oh, that's just minor attraction. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I never thought I would hear these kind of things 10 years ago. It's like, oh, that's not pedophilia, that's minor attraction.
And keep in mind, guys, as we're saying this, we live in California, so we experience all this stuff the most.
Yes.
And
exactly.
so just keep it. It may not be happening where you're at if you're in a different state or anything like that, but that's kind of like part of the agenda of what we're living in today in California.
Right. And this is going to probably just get some people on the comment section. Like, how
Go
dare
for
you?
it.
And the thing is, it's like, as I was saying earlier, when our nation celebrates these things and it starts encouraging to the children, like, oh yeah, you don't know your identity. Let's get you a sex change. Yes, gay marriage is okay. Like again, and I tell people this, I think everyone should be treated with respect and dignity. Whether you're gay, trans, you should still have that. You should still be treated with respect and dignity. But that doesn't mean I have to agree with your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean I have to co-sign with your lifestyle either. I will still treat you as a human being with respect and dignity, but I'm not going to co-sign on that lifestyle you choose to live.
Yeah.
But back to my first point, when you have when you have a nation that celebrates that, well, guess what? You open the window for sin to come in and other things to come in. And it could be like that within a household. It could be like that with a community. It could be like that with a nation. When I look at America, I think of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of Sodom and Gomorrah as a prime example where it's like God had gave them chance after chance after chance after chance to turn from wickedness. And he says, okay, I'm leaving you to your own devices and I'm desecrating all of this.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying we're at that point with America. I'm not saying that, but all these things that America taking God out the school, and now they're talking about like, oh, we shouldn't, a Bible should be illegal. All this stuff they're talking about, but you can never get rid of God. But all this stuff they're talking about, that's anti-God, right? This is a nation that was built on biblical Judaic principle. And when you start opping this stuff out of America, well, guess what? Eventually, the structure of what America was built on and any nation was built on, it's going to crumble eventually. Yeah. Because you start compromising in one sin, eventually you're going to start compromising in all sins.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. An overall subject in regards to what's happening is that if we allow things to come in, then that's what we're going to have to live with.
Exactly.
So I put this in a different perspective in regards to the border. How does this relate to the Bible at all? I think it has, we can definitely have a lot of reference in regards from the Bible to the circumstances in regards to why is it important to have a secure border. I put it in this way. You have a home.
Exactly.
Do you ever, at all times, have your front door open?
No, never.
Why?
Security.
Security. Why else? It's okay. Nobody's going to
privacy.
Privacy. No, nobody's going to go through.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You know?
Exactly.
Then I encourage you, if you feel that way about your border, just leave your door open at your home. That's just the reality of it. You won't allow your door to be open at all times, because the moment that you're asleep, bad things can happen. At all times, people will take advantage of the opportunity to go ahead and steal something out of your home, to do something, to bring something in that is not meant to be for your home.
Right.
That's the reality of the situation that we deal with. In the same way in America, we should not keep the back door open. Why?
Exactly.
Because things can come into our country that could ultimately corrupt an ideology.
Exactly.
And so it's bigger than the substance and the worldly things that come in or the people that come through. But no, it's about the powers and principalities behind that as well.
Right.
That's why you see the impact that is happening in communities like San Francisco, like LA, and so on and so forth. It's completely changed. Why? Because of the ideology and the powers and principalities that can corrupt a mind.
Exactly.
And so when I think about this biblically, what about Israel? How secure was Israel?
Right.
How secure is Israel now?
Right.
Very, very secure.
Very
Iron
secure.
wall,
Yeah.
secure. Why? Because of Genesis 12:3.
Exactly.
Blessed are those who bless Israel. Cursed are those that curse Israel.
Right.
If we are a nation that is built upon a foundation and ideology of Judeo-Christian values, we should do as much as possible in order to protect that.
Exactly.
That's the Ten Commandments,
Exactly.
our Constitution, all of it in line with what? With Judeo-Christian values.
In God we trust.
In God we trust. One nation under God.
Right.
We should protect that at all costs.
At all costs. I
In
agree.
the same way that the Israelites back in the day protected their nations from all the ites. Why? Because of ideology that takes them away from the important values that God had given them.
Exactly.
And in the same way, we should not allow ideologies and principalities that human trafficking is okay, that drugs are okay,
Right.
that different law and order that go against our Judeo-Christian values are okay. We should not
Exactly.
allow that to come through into our nation and make us into something that we are not.
Exactly.
We should all abide by it. Why? Because we're in the land of the free. We have the opportunity to walk in freedom. All we have to do is follow the law and pay our taxes. That's essentially all we have to do.
Yeah.
And in the same way, the Judeo-Christian values that we hold is that we serve, we live in freedom as long as we follow
the
Him.
law.
And that we carry our cross.
Yeah. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so I think that's the reality of it, is that in the same way, if we talk about this biblically, that God had said we must protect Israel, if we view our nation as that, as Christians, then we should make sure that we are protecting what is good.
Amen.
And we need to protect our women and children. We need to protect those that are coming out here and living good lives and giving them opportunities. We need to go out and we need to protect our young adults, our teenagers from drug addiction and those who have been addicted before that in the hopes that they don't relapse. But while at the same time, we should also share a love to say you can also have the same thing.
Exactly.
But there needs to be a process to that. In the same way, there's a process to our salvation as well.
Amen.
We must learn to say yes to Christ. In the same way, people should learn to say yes to the process that we have here.
Amen.
And we have to abide by that.
Right.
And so I know it's not an easy thing. And I know people say the southern border is broken in its matter. I'm not asking for perfection there, but I'm asking that we be intentional about it.
Exactly.
For the sake of the people that live here, and also for the sake of those who really want to truly live a better life. And so that's going to really conclude this conversation here. I'm just going to leave it at that. And I am in a full understanding of the position that I'm at with people, with life, with my loved ones, and everything. My stance is always will stay the same in regards to everything. Why? Because I truly care about people in every single life aspect in many different walks. And I believe that in the same way that we had a conversation today and being open and honest, I believe that we as people need to be able to have open conversation even though we may have different perspectives. This right here, I believe, just in the same example that my grandpa and my now wife had a conversation, I believe that we as people should have the same conversation. In a way, I have skin in the game when it comes to this conversation.
Exactly.
Why? Because of the people that are around me.
Yeah.
While at the same time, I also have to keep in mind that we are still a nation that needs protection.
Amen. Yeah.
And we're a nation that still needs order. And let's go ahead, let's bring order while at the same time bringing opportunity
Amen.
for
I agree.
growth.
Yes.
And so,
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And about what I said before, I don't want to say like, oh, God is going to destroy America. That's not what I'm saying. God will leave us in life, and even a nation, he will leave it to their own devices that they can grow from it and turn away from their sin. Or again, he's going to leave you to your own devices, and whatever fruit bears from that, it is what it is.
the Bible teaches us that our biggest enemy is not the devil. Our biggest enemy is ourselves.
It is. Mm-hmm.
And that's just the reality of it. If we allow ourselves to be corrupt and polluted with ideologies outside of God, we are going to live in them.
Exactly.
And that's just the
and
reality.
Everybody, and unfortunately, everyone's going to suffer. You know, like, unfortunately, you and I we both believe in Jesus as our Lord and Savior. We follow God. But unfortunately, since this is our home, we have to bear the consequences to what the leaders and higher powers are encouraging our co-signing on.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's unfortunate how, like, you know, the disobedience of our nation, everyone will suffer the disobedience of the nation.
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, man, we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Make sure everybody like, subscribe, share. I know this was a very sensitive subject. I did not look forward to doing this, but I also felt like it was necessary to be able to open up dialogue.
It was like, kind of like, again, I was apprehensive about this. Like, Pastor Gabe, you sure you want me on this? Because this is gonna tickle some ears, and just, you know, it's gonna raise some eyebrows.
No, like I said, in the end of the day, I love all people from different walks of life,
right?
And I've expressed that. And none of that matters to me. But at the same time, I'm also thinking about our nation. And I'm thinking about where we're at right now in our circumstances. And I talk about this. I'm a youth pastor, and obviously a lot of our audience is a little bit younger. And it's like, why would you talk about this when we've been talking about just personal testimonies and this and that? Because I feel like it's necessary for people to be truly informed about the circumstances that we're dealing with, even if it's an uncomfortable subject. And so even though this was a bit uncomfortable, with the skin that I have in a way in the game, with the knowledge that I have, with the experiences that I have, with the position that I'm in, I also have to be able to go out and say that I'm not fake. I can't be fake about it.
Exactly.
You know, I can't be fake about the situation. I have to be able to express myself. This is a big deal, and I'm not trying to influence anybody into voting left or right. I just want to be able to give people the details. And also, how does this apply to my faith? Why? Because Christians don't go out and vote. And don't use that quite often a lot. Right. And I feel like everybody should be able to take the time to do that and use their freedom to be able to vote for who you want to vote for, but on the basis of Judeo-Christian values first, not about a personality or what that person said. No, Judeo-Christian values first.
And I just want to say one more thing. I think here in our nation, we prioritize Republican, Democrat above God. And I tell people, God first. Like, in God we trust, one nation under God. Listen, you can have your own political view, but God has to be at the forefront of that. And let God order your steps in what is the best political party, whether it's Democrat, Republican. I'm gonna be honest, I think there are some redeeming qualities to Democrats. Now, in the past 10 years, it's been very little.
Man,
but there are some.
You just put yourself on blast like that, man. You just announced yourself,
I
bro.
know.
You're about to get canceled.
I know, I'm about to get canceled. It's like, how dare you? So,
we don't lean left, we don't lean right, we stand.
But at the end of the day, I'm choosing God's ways always. I'm choosing Him first. What God says, what does God stand on, and I'm gonna stand on that.
Oh yeah.
Democrat or Republican doesn't matter to me.
I gotcha. Well, we're just rambling on here. But
yeah, we are.
We enjoy it. All right, like, subscribe, share. We love you. God bless you. And I hope that this was an experience for you. Peace.
Peace.
Oh yeah, by the way, next week, last topic, international affairs. We're going to talk about the wars. We're bringing back on our soldier Jason to talk about this one. All right, guys. God bless you.